You are a magical girl. That's at least one thing you're still quite sure of. You were drunk earlier. Well, you're almost drunk at least. Probably just a few more glasses, and then you could have had that pleasant warm buzz that just softened everything, dulled the pain to tolerable levels, turned down the volume some. Of course that went down the entire fucking drain when that crazed pink-haired bitch from your dreams popped inches from your face and just told you how much of a turn-on she found you to be, bleeding slowly to death on the ground. And now you're sober, and irritatingly so. 4 hours of drinking gone to pot just like that. Well, no matter. At least it helped you get to the hotel quicker. It ain't no Ritz, but a night's stay here is definitely out of your pay bracket. The in-room peanuts probably cost more than a salaryman's monthly wage. Surprisingly, the front of the hotel is devoid of guards, as is the lobby and the elevators. You make a mental note of this as you ride up to the penthouse where you're supposed to be reporting in. As you alight, it's only then that you finally see security. The entire corridor leading to the penthouse suite is dotted with black suits, bulging at all the wrong places. You are immediately stopped by a towering brute in an ill-fitting pinstripe, one meaty arm barring your way.
Excuse me, but this is a private area for the meantime. Please leave immediately.
You're not in a very good mood. You look up at him, past the mirror-like surface of his expensive shades, and manage to pin him down with a glare that stops him dead in his tracks. Without breaking eye contact, you hand him a copy of Kyubei's contract with the idol, one Minase Iori. The document directly identifies you as her temporary personal bodyguard, your own smirking mug plastered at the very top of the paper. You give the armed gorilla the name that you remember, but just to play things safe, you add Murderface as an alias. At the same time, you nonchalantly jam 2 cigarettes between your lips, and then light them in the same sharp movement. Despite the large "No Smoking" sign behind him, the guard looks over your papers meticulously, then nods, stepping slightly back.
Everything seems to be in order. My apologies, Miss Matsuda. As you can see, we are on high alert at the moment. We are taking the threat on Miss Minase's life very seriously.
Seriously, he says. A bum with a hard-on for idol pussy could have snuck up in here. You take a moment to savor the freshly lit cigarettes before giving your reply, all the while giving the head gorilla the usual look you give future gunshot victims. You tell him, in no uncertain terms, that if they were taking this seriously, then they would have locked up the place tighter than a virgin idol's second input hole.
That was what we thought about when we got here, but that kind of security attracts attention, and no doubt those after Miss Minase would be looking out for such a hotel. We thought it would be better to simply focus our efforts here, right at the only entrance to the penthouse. If they try anything, we'll be there to stop them. And Miss Minase can count on us for that.
Idiots. Where do they get these types from? There's really no way around it. You don't like doing this. Well, you actually do. But you don't relish it. Lives are at stake after all, and if these idiots mess up, it's no doubt that they'll be the ones paying for it, as well as their boss. You reach up slowly, as the gorilla in front of you continues to drone on about their security contingencies. He seems to be so caught up in the details of what they do in case anything happened, that he completely misses you taking hold of his tie. You cinch your fingers around the silky velvet and tug back. He gives off a choked grunt, his face turning completely red as he tips forward, off balance, both hands flying out to steady himself. You grab one arm and let him step past you. As you shift aside, twisting the man's meaty arm behind him and slamming him, face first, into the elevator doors behind you. You plainly ignore the sound of 20 firearms having their safeties disengaged and aimed at you from behind, as you calmly reiterate your request. You don't mean to disparage his men, of course, but you have to insist. Their boss hired you for a reason after all, and you're simply here to do the job you're paid. You enumerate the many ways you yourself could have infiltrated the building and the penthouse. And you don't skimp on the minutia on what you might have done with their bodies and Iori's if you were the one behind all this. You punctuate each possible scenario with a friendly twist of his arm, making him twitch along with his men.
All right, Miss Mazda. I'll call in another team. We'll cover all the floors, especially at the entrance. Rotating patrols, armed with deadly force. Just don't break my arm, please.
You let go of his arm and grab a fistful of his jacket instead, pulling him up from his faceplant on the elevator doors and back onto his feet. You pull a cigarette from your rapidly dwindling box of smokes, stick it in between his lips, and light one with one of your own, patting him on the head as you do so. You force your lips into what you remember as a smile, and speak a few encouraging words at him, much for his and his team's benefit. You just humiliated their leader by manhandling him while being a skinny, frail-looking young girl. What's a couple more stabs to their ego after all? He seems to be completely stunned at this, the lit cigarette barely hanging onto his lower lip before you finally push past him and make your way towards Iori's suite, blatantly ignoring the stony glares from the gorillas lining the corridor. You're not exactly confident with Iori's chances with them, but at least they could say that they tried. If anything, the full building lockout should delay the worst case scenario. You stand in front of Iori's suite door. It being nighttime, there's a potential for surprise. Mutant Cat Protection Agency, your extra security's here, miss. You lift up your right arm, the one with the shield clamped tightly onto it, and you wrap your knuckles smartly against the polished wood. Introducing yourself plainly as extra security sent in by the stupid freak cat. You wonder if Cube actually had a name for his little agency. Maybe you ask mommy when you call her again, later. Approximately 10 seconds pass since you knocked. You turn to one of the gorillas nearest you and he merely shrugs. Sheer incompetence, you think, as you turn back to the door. You press your ear against it. There's a faint noise coming from behind the door, a continued rustling. Maybe the static of a TV, maybe something else. Can't tell. Shit. Is the suite already compromised? Is this gonna be another repeat of what happened at Mommy's flat? Taking a deep breath, you take hold of the elaborate brass door handle and give it a twist, before shoving it open and bursting into the room. Your hand strays to your shield, ready to slam it into position and have it dispense the firearm of the day, just in case. Now! Well, the room is nice. Soft, warm, costs a lot of money, smells really nice too. Like a faint hint of lavender and sandalwood, and fresh soap, the expensive kind. After a few moments, it's only then that you realize that the smell is coming from the idol, standing across the room from you, right at the entrance to the suite's bathroom, her entire form naked except for a towel. Seems like she just finished showering for the night. The noise you've heard must have been running water. She stares at you with an icy expression, cautiously blank despite the compromising position you caught her in. Guards! Take this repugnant little urchin out of my suite and onto the street. What kind of guards are you, that you can't even stop the riffraff from coming into my very own room?
You hear the guards outside seemingly rushing forward in an attempt to be the first to get into the room and explain the situation to a half-naked 16-year-old idol. and you thwart that attempt by kicking the teak door shut with the heel of your boot, the heavy portal slamming closed with an ominous metal click. You then take the moment of brief silence to introduce yourself to the principal. You're Chiaki Matsuda, one of QB's security specialists. You try to avoid any instance of magical girls in your introduction, as you remember that's still a bit of a kayfabe term. You tell her about the security measures you've already undertaken, and those you plan on undertaking. Most of this seems to go over the idol's head completely, but her expression seems to smoothen at the mention of your boss.
Ah, so you're one of QB-san's agents then. I suppose that changes things.
She steps forward, bringing that intoxicating cloud of scent with her, and you see her looking you up and down.
You're shorter than I thought, but I suppose you look capable enough.
She reaches forward and plucks your cigarettes from your lips with one hand, before taking your right hand with her other and stubbing the smokes out on your shield.
I will not tolerate smoking in my presence. I'm thankful for QB-san's concern for my well-being, but anyone under my employ must follow a strict set of rules. That includes you, Matsuda-san.
It's then that she sniffs, her nose screwing up.
Since when did you last bathe? You smell like a bar.
She steps back, hands gingerly letting yours go, and gestures towards the bathroom she just left.
Please, if not for your hygiene, then for my sake. Use the complimentary toiletries and don't touch any of mine.
Unbelievable. You haven't been treated like this since 6 hours ago, by Sayaka nonetheless. You'd think you'd already gotten used to it, but it still sort of stings. You respectfully decline the offer, stating your reasons curtly and clearly. You apologize for, as she said, smelling like a bar, but your top priority here is her continued safety, not her comfort, and if she's offended about a little alcohol breath, then it was well out of your hands.
At the very least, brush your teeth.
Iori insists, seemingly adamant to prove that she can order you around.
This is not about my comfort, this is about taking care of yourself. Just how long have you been drinking today anyways?
This was going to end up a screaming match, so you agree to it. At least you'll be able to do so with the door opened. With the bathroom mirror and sink facing the door, you can easily get a cursory look at the room behind you while you brush. And it's not like you're going to take forever. You grumble something about uppity idle bitches underneath your breath, and step into the steamy, fragrant bathroom, Iori's freshly bathed scent filling your nostrils. Unwrapping a complimentary toothbrush and slathering complimentary toothpaste onto the bristles, you rinse your mouth out before starting the brushing process. Behind you, reflected by the mirror, you see Iori drop her towel on the floor and get dressed for bed, in an outfit girls of her age should probably not be wearing. You shrug. It's probably an idle thing, you say, as you continue brushing your teeth. Yup, easiest job in the whole world. You hum tunelessly while you continue the delicate task of oral hygiene maintenance and idle voyeurism. After a moment, you decide to glance around the bathroom, which looks like it could easily fit your own apartment. Twice over. As you look around, there doesn't seem to be any glaring security issues you could see. The vents seem to be securely grilled, the windows small and barred. The only thing you can note here is that Iori doesn't seem to be the neatest of people, with her used panties just lying there, a couple of feet away, on the marble floor. It's frilly, black, and expensive. You glance quickly back at Iori. She seems to be brushing her hair. All good so far. You blink and glance at yourself in the mirror, before laughing slightly. Have you really sunk so low that you are actually considering it? No, of course not. You may have lost your own self-respect down the line, but it's back. It's back now, and you're going to be a complete and utter professional about this sort of thing. You're not selling your clients' panties on the internet. Giving your mouth a final rinse, you finish brushing, and a cursory inspection reveals that you've done an alright job. Rinsing the brush, you place it down on the sink, and then you step out of the bathroom and back into the suite proper. You ignore Iori sitting primly in her nightgown in front of the dresser, brushing her hair out, and proceed with the canvassing. There's obvious tension in the room between the both of you, but it's just you being generally annoyed at being sober at this time of day. On Iori's part, however, you can't help but notice that she seems to be wanting to ask something, but can't find the way to ask it properly. You leave it at this. You're not here to make the principal comfortable, like you said. You're here to make sure they don't end up on a porn site.
This is about what happened to Yayoi, isn't it?
It's the first words you hear from the idol that doesn't sound like she's talking from high up on a goddamn throne.
They think it's gonna happen to me too, don't they?
You glare at the windows. Possible security risk, but they seem to have deadbolts, and they're bulletproof. They also keep the air conditioning in. You're never really one for security detail. If you remember correctly, that's Sayaka's expertise. She may be a totally prickly bitch to you, but to her principals, they can't seem to praise her enough, especially when the principal in question is a little kid that needed protecting. You had asked QB about this, and he mentioned something about Sayaka trying to emulate Mami when dealing with clients. Something about being maternal, he had said, or being a big sister. You're not Sayaka, you're not Mami. You are not in your element. But as you hear Iori's confident voice tremble slightly now that the reality seems to have settled in with your presence, you can't help but understand them a little bit. In any other event, you would have been brutally honest, and not at all that optimistic about the chances of her surviving this. But instead, you try your best to reassure her. Yes, her security and QB do think that there might be a risk, but it's a negligible one, at best. And your presence is simply to make sure that she was safe until she was on the plane to America. She shouldn't think about getting raped, or being touched, by those otaku at all. Because that will never happen on your watch. You do this without looking at her, instead opening closets, looking underneath the massive bed, checking out the suite for any hidden passages, trapdoors, or such. None so far. The only other point of entry would be the sky roof, but it's too high up that it's a complete moot point. As you look back at her, you see that it's worked, albeit slightly. She seems calmer than before, and is looking at you directly. At least she's not crying or anything.
I see.
Iori says after a moment.
I suppose I shouldn't think about it too much. Everyone else seems to be doing the worrying for me, so I won't let that go to waste. Thank you, Matsuda-san.
You try and distract yourself from just how dry your throat is, and how nice it would be to have some expensive whiskey right now, by continuing this conversation with the client. It would be unprofessional after all, if she saw you drinking on the job. She'd already had to try and get you to take a shower, but you didn't need to damage your reputation further by stealing her panties or making an utter fool of yourself with alcohol. You ask her about Yayoi. By the way she said her name, it seems as though they were pretty close. They were from the same studio after all, right? She looks up at you from her seat in front of the dresser, before turning back to her reflection and nodding.
Yes. Yayoi-san, we're friends. We started out being idols together. The same line during the auditions, in fact.
She seems to smile at the memory.
I was a bit more irritable back then. Yayoi-san, on the other hand, was nothing but energy and kindness. She came from a destitute background, but you wouldn't know it just by talking to her, or meeting her face to face. She loved everyone.
It's then that her smile falls, and she looks down.
When that happened to her, she changed, Matsuda-san. She's not the Yayoi I knew. I can't hold it against her, of course. This is not her fault at all, but she's...
Iori falters here, and you realize that you've made her cry.
I can't even recognize my friend anymore. I hated Matsuda-san. I hate what they've done to her, and what I've made her become.
You apologize quietly, not really knowing what to do. You are not Mami, you are not Sayaka. You're not good at this touchy-feely stuff. The sight of tears, you remember, once struck you hard enough that you yourself would be easily reduced to them. Not that you weren't already a crybaby back then, but seeing someone cry always had that effect on you. Now, it's different. Markedly. But you do the expected of you anyway. You walk over to the lounge table just across the room, pick up the open box of tissues on top of it, and place it on the dresser table in front of the tearful idol. You don't do physical contact, but you're not someone to tell them that they can't cry because it's inconvenient.
Oh, thank you, Master-san.
Iori manages to say after a moment, sniffling.
I thought you were just gonna stand there and watch the waterworks. See the idol bawl her eyes out and everything.
She blows her nose delicately into a wad of tissues.
You know, I wouldn't have held it against you. I mean, idols are curiosities after all.
You shake your head at this. You tell her that you've seen and heard more horrible things, and you know how the world can just suddenly turn on you like that. No questions asked, no quarter given. People change, and there's no helping it. We just move on the best we can. Iori wiped at her eyes before smiling.
Matsu-san, I apologize for being harsh on you earlier. It's clear now that you really are focused on my safety. I thought you were just like the other guards posted outside. I had to fire 3 of them already for stealing my panties.
She shakes her head.
You really can't find good help these days.
It's not an overreaction for you to say something like that, and do it just as readily. But somehow, the deadpan way you said it seems to have made it sound all the funnier to the idol, and she bursts into relieved, tearful laughter immediately after. You're relieved too. At least the serious, heavy air between the both of you had been lifted somewhat, and you didn't really need a client who seemed more than eager to mope around feeling sorry for themselves while a firefight's going on. That said, your opinion of the idiots outside lowered to a couple more notches. It's not the panties, really, you think to yourself. It's how they could be so unprofessional as to do that and get caught. Embarrassing. A total embarrassment.
Wow. That wasn't very funny at all, Master-san.
Iori manages after a moment, a tired smile on her face as she tries to get her breath back.
But how you said it. Thank you. I needed that. More than I'm willing to admit.
You hold up a hand, shaking your head. It's not part of your responsibilities, you tell her. It was simply an observation. She sours slightly at that, but her mood seems to have massively improved at least. It's then that a knocking issues from the door, followed by the voice of the guard from earlier.
Miss Matsuda, I apologize for the interruption, but Miss Minase has a visitor. It's important.
You blink at Iori, who shrugs before moving to the door. You reply that there seems to be no company being expected that night, especially with the recent state of things.
No, it's a surprise visit of sorts. Yes.
Gorilla's voice is distracted, as if he's listening to someone from another source.
Miss Minase, Miss Takatsuki Yayoi is here to see you.
Takatsuki Yayoi? Wait, the girl who was raped before? What is she doing here?
Yayoi?
As if suddenly animated, Iori stands up from the dresser seat, checking her reflection slightly as she made a beeline to the door.
We talked about visiting each other one last time before going to America, so this will probably be the last time we'd ever be able to do it. Please, Matsuda, please let her in.